السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته dear sisters, and now continue inshallah with the lesson المتماثلان المتجانسان المتقاربان والمتباعدان, the two identical letters, the two similar letters, the two close letters, and the two far letters. We already explained the first two, المتماثلان, the two identical or the two alike, and also we explained the two similar. So we still have two types between, the relations in between the letters, which is gonna be the two close letters. They are close in their articulation points, but they are not coming from the same articulation point. So they are, for the similar, remember we said the similar letters are coming from the same articulation points. But the third one we're going to take now, which is the two close letters, they are not coming from the same articulation points, but they are close in their articulation points. These letters, as we used to divide the cases when the first letter is second and the second letter is vowel, we call this the small closed letters. In the case of the small closed letters, we have to apply the edgham. And we'll show you now the cases we have with the two closed letters. In the case of being small, the first letter is second and the second letter is voweled. And as we took before, if it is not small, if it is big, the two letters are voweled. Or if it is absolute, the first is voweled and the second is second, so we should do izhar. Okay? But now I'll explain to you when it is small, the first case, when we expect to have idgham. Okay? So now they are close letters. They are not similar. They are not coming from the same articulation point, but their articulation points are close. Okay? The first case, as I told you, is the small case when the first letter is second and the second letter is voweled, and this is the case we expect the relation to happen, which is going to be the idgham. And that's applied with the letters of the idgham after the noon second, like noon followed by the letters of the idgham. Now the noon in its articulation point is close to the letters of the idgham, so that's why we apply the idgham with them, like noon plus the letters of يرملون. But we're not gonna apply the noon with the noon, so it's gonna be just يرملو without noon, the letters of idgham. So if the noon is followed by the letters of the idgham, like we took in the lesson of the noon second rules, so we should do the idgham, and that's going to be under the close letters, because the noon second is close to the letters of the idgham in its articulation point. But we can't take the noon, because if I take the noon from the letters of the idgham, it's going to be noon and noon, so they're going to be identical, and this is not the case we have now. We are not explaining the identical letters now, but we are explaining the close letters. So the noon second followed by the letters of the idgham is one of the examples of the small closed letters. The second case is the lam for a different article, like the lam is coming at the beginning of the word to, for example, the word ash-shams. Here, the lam, this lam second, ash-shams, al-layl, like that. This lam at the beginning of the word, preceded by hamzatul wasl, is merged into the letters of the idgham, and we took that before in the lesson of the lam second rules. You can refer to it. So this lam is merged into the letters of the idgham, like we're not saying al-shams, we say ash-shams. So the lam is merged into the sheen, and that's because the lam is close to the sheen in its articulation point. So also the lam second rules, in the case of the lam of the definite article, which is coming at the beginning of the word, is an example for the close small letters. Also the lam for the verb and the lam for the participant. You remember we took that before? قل ربي. This is the lam for a verb, and followed by ra. So in this case, we're going to merge the lam to the ra, saying قر ربي, قر, because the lam is close to the ra in its articulation point. And also with the participles, like بل رفعه, we say بل رفعه, بل رفعه. So we merge the lam into the ra, and that's also an example for the closed letters, because the lam is close to the ra. In between the qaf and the kaf, also the qaf and the kaf are very close as an articulation point, so we merge them together. We merge the qaf into the kaf. For example, نخلقكم, it is qaf followed by kaf. So we're gonna merge the qaf into the kaf, saying نخلقكم, نخلقكم. Yeah. Next is gonna be, also we are still explaining the small case when the first letter is second, the second letter is voweled, and the two letters are close in their articulation points. The second case, also in the small case, if they are close, is the ikhfa, and that's between the noon second and all the ikhfa letters. Why we apply ikhfa between the noon second and the ikhfa letters? Because they are already close in their articulation point. The noon second is close to the letters of the ikhfa. And that's, here we have an exception between the, in this case, which is gonna be the noon if it is followed by qaf and kaf. Because the noon and the qaf and the kaf, we should not say they are close, actually. They are very far. If you try to show that by your mouth, the noon is the tip of the tongue, the qaf is the back of the tongue, they are very far. So we can't say that they are close. So all the ikhfa letters are gonna be under the small closed letters with the noon second, except the qaf and the kaf, because it is not close to the noon. The third example for is the iqlab, and the iqlab is done between the noon second and the ba. The noon second is close to the ba in its articulation point, because the noon is the tip of the tongue, the ba is from the lips. So they are already close in their articulation point. So that's why we apply the iqlab in between the noon and the ba. So now we took the two closed letters. We say the relation is going to be in the case of being small, which is that the first letter is second, the second letter is voweled. The examples for that is like in the edgham letters in between the noon second rules. I mean the noon rule, the noon second and the rest of the edgham letters except the noon. The lam for the definite article like ash-shams and all the idgham letters coming after the lam. The lam in a verb, the lam in a participle, and the qaf and the kaf. We took that. And also we expect to have ikhfa in between the noon and the letters of the ikhfa, except for the qaf and the kaf. We also expect to have iqlab, and that is done in the noon rules, remember, in between the noon and the ba. Now we finished the cases related to the two closed letters. They are close, but they are not the same articulation points. And we have the relation between them if they are in the case of being small. The first letter is second, the second letter is voweled. And what are the relations? Idgham, ikhfa, and iqlab. But if they are not small, if they are big, I mean the first letter is voweled and the second is voweled. So as I told you before, we're gonna apply izhar and there will be no relation. And the same for the absolute case, when the first letter is vowel and the second letter is second, we also not gonna merge them, they will be having izhar. Now we'll take the last type, which is the two far letters. Now they are not from the same articulation point and they are not close in their articulation points. So what do we expect? We call this in Arabic al-mutabaidan. Al-mutabaidan. Now they are far from each other. They are far, where they are not the same articulation point. They are not close in their articulation point, but they are far from each other. In this case, we have to apply izhar in all the cases, the small one, the absolute one, and the big one. But we have just one exception, which is the noon if it is followed by the qaf and the kaf. Remember, in the ikhfa we said that if the noon is followed by qaf and kaf, what should we do here? We should do ikhfa, but actually the noon is not close to the qaf and the kaf. It is far, it is under the last group. Al-mutabaidan. So the noon and the qaf and the kaf, they are far from each other. The noon is from the tip of the tongue and the qaf and the kaf is from the back part of the tongue. So they are not close, for sure they are far, but we are applying the ikhfa in between them because they are close to each other, related to the letters of the throat. If I compare to the noon, relation to the letters of the throat, like the hamza and the ha, which are these hard letters. If I compare these letters, these hard letters, to the qaf and the kaf, so the qaf and the kaf is closer, and that's why we do a relation between the noon and the qaf and the kaf, which is the ikhfa. So, the last case, if the letters are far, so we should do izhar in all the cases, the small case, the big case, and the absolute case, except with the noon if it is followed by qaf and kaf, so we should do ikhfa in this case. That's all about the lesson. المتماثلان, the two alike letters. المتجانسان, the two similar letters. المتقاربان, the two close letters. المتباعدان, the two far letters. Inshallah, I'll be sending you some words as a homework so you can find me and tell me which one is this word related to the mutamathilani or the mutajanisani or mutaqaribani. And also you have to find if it is a small case, the first letter is second, the second is vowel, if it is big, if it is absolute, in order to see what you're gonna do. As I told you, the relations all the time depending on that we have the small case. The first letter is second, the second one is vowel. But for the rest of the cases, the absolute and the big, we expect all the time to have two clear letters without merging them. جزاكم الله خير.